Imagine landing in a country where a man can be fined simply for standing while using the restroom, where people casually sunbathe completely naked right next to a restaurant or even a kindergarten, and where trains in one of the most disciplined nations on earth are somehow famous for being late. Does that sound like chaos to you, or does it sound like a different kind of order you have never experienced before? This is Germany. Located at the very center of Europe, Germany sits at the crossroads of cultures, borders, and histories, connected to nearly every corner of the continent. With a population of more than 84 million people, it is one of the most powerful and influential countries in the world, quietly shaping how Europe moves, builds, and lives. What makes it even more surprising is its scale. Germany is smaller than the state of Texas, yet it holds the position of the largest economy in Europe. To many Americans, Germany represents discipline, precision, and strict rules, a place where everything runs on time, systems are efficient, and personal freedom comes second to order. But once you actually step inside the country, that image begins to crack. Germany is full of contradictions. It is deeply traditional, yet boldly modern. It appears cold on the surface, yet feels surprisingly human once you understand it. It is a society built on rules, yet it allows freedoms that would shock many visitors. Discipline and rebellion exist side by side, not as opposites, but as parts of the same culture. And that is what makes Germany so fascinating to explore, because this is not just a country you visit. It is a country that constantly challenges your assumptions and forces you to rethink what freedom, order, and everyday life truly mean. So before we dive into the most surprising facts about Germany, ask yourself one simple question. If you lived here, would you feel controlled by its rules or strangely liberated by them? Culture shocks. You will not believe in Germany. You can actually be fined just for raising your middle finger. In many countries, this gesture is rude but quickly forgotten. In Germany, it is considered an insult to personal honor, and it can cost you hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the situation and your income. There have even been real cases where people were fined heavily for doing it in public, during arguments, or even at sporting events. But that is only the beginning. Imagine walking through a city park, near a busy train station, or right next to a restaurant, and seeing people lying on the grass completely naked. No hiding, no embarrassment, no second thoughts. This is part of a long-standing German tradition known as FKK, a culture that views nudity as natural, healthy, and free from sexual meaning. For first-time visitors, the shock is immediate. For locals, it is simply normal life. Then there is something much smaller, yet equally surprising. In Germany, blowing your nose loudly in public is considered more polite than quietly sniffing it back. Many Germans believe sniffing is unhygienic and uncomfortable, while blowing your nose properly is clean and practical. So in a cafe, on a train, or in an office, hearing someone blow their nose loudly is not rude at all. Trying not to might actually raise more eyebrows. For newcomers, these moments can feel overwhelming, confusing, and even uncomfortable. But for Germans, all of this follows a clear internal logic. It is about cleanliness, honesty, and dealing with things directly instead of pretending they are not there. So if you were living in Germany, which of these would shock you the most? The public nudity, the strict fines for insults, or the way people casually blow their noses without a second thought? German women, independent, free, and unafraid of aging. In Germany, something happens that surprises many visitors almost immediately. The older a woman becomes, the more confident and attractive she is often perceived to be. Unlike in many countries where youth is chased relentlessly, German women rarely feel pressure to freeze time or hide their age. Cosmetic interventions are not a priority. Instead of trying to look younger at all costs, they focus on staying healthy, mentally balanced, and physically strong. Age is not treated as a weakness here. It is seen as experience, stability, and self-knowledge. This mindset shapes the way German women live their lives. They value independence deeply. Earning their own money, managing their own lives, and standing on their own feet is considered normal, not impressive. Emotional strength and personal boundaries matter just as much as appearance. Many women build their careers, travel, and shape their identities long before even thinking about marriage. And when it comes to relationships, the approach is equally different. Marriage is not viewed as a life requirement. Living together for many years without marrying is completely normal and socially accepted. The goal is not to rush into labels, but to truly understand each other through everyday life, shared responsibilities, and real challenges. A German woman is not raised to be a princess waiting to be rescued. She is raised to be an equal partner, someone who chooses to walk beside another person, not behind them and not in front of them. Relationships are built on mutual respect, freedom, and choice, not dependence. So what do you think? Does this kind of independence make German women more attractive, or does it make them feel more difficult to approach? Strange and strict laws that shock most foreigners. In Germany, even using the restroom comes with rules. One of the most surprising laws for visitors is that men are expected to sit down when using the toilet. In many homes, restaurants, and public places, standing is considered impolite and unhygienic. In some cases, ignoring this rule can even lead to complaints or fines. What sounds ridiculous to outsiders is simply common courtesy to Germans. Naming a child is also taken very seriously. Parents are not free to choose any name they like. The government can reject names that may embarrass the child, cause confusion, or fail to clearly indicate gender. The belief is that a name can shape a person's psychology and future, and changing it later is complicated and expensive, so protection comes before personal expression. Death is regulated just as strictly. After cremation, ashes cannot be kept at home. They must be buried according to the law, either in an approved cemetery, at sea in designated areas, or beneath memorial trees. For Germans, this is about dignity, order, and respect, not personal preference. And then there is time. Being late in Germany is not a small mistake. It is often seen as a lack of respect. Whether at work, in meetings, or even social gatherings, punctuality is treated as a basic form of politeness. There is a common saying that it is better to arrive 5 minutes early than 1 minute late. Compared to the flexible and forgiving attitude toward time in the United States, Germany feels almost precise down to the minute. Rules are clear, expectations are firm, and consistency matters more than convenience. So what do you think? Does this level of discipline feel civilized and reassuring, or does it feel too strict for everyday life? Beer, bread, and sausages, the soul of Germany. In Germany, beer was once considered an essential food. This might sound unbelievable today, but for centuries, beer was not just a drink, it was a source of nutrition, safety, and daily energy. As far back as the year 1516, Germany introduced the famous beer purity law, which strictly limited beer to just 4 ingredients: water, barley, hops, and yeast. This law was not about marketing or tradition alone. It was about protecting quality, health, and identity. There was a very practical reason behind this deep respect for beer. In the Middle Ages, drinking water was often unsafe, filled with bacteria that could make people seriously ill. Beer, however, went through a boiling and fermentation process that made it far safer to consume. Even children drank light beer as part of everyday life. For monks during periods of fasting, beer became known as liquid bread, providing calories and strength when solid food was restricted. Bread holds the same level of importance. Germany is home to more than 3,200 different types of bread, a diversity so rich that it has been officially recognized by UNESCO as cultural heritage. Each region developed its own recipes based on local grains, climate, and traditions. Bread here is not a side dish. It is the foundation of daily meals and family life. And then there are sausages. More than 1,500 varieties exist across the country, and nearly every region proudly claims that theirs is the best. From grilled street food to carefully protected regional specialties, sausages are a symbol of local identity and pride. They are not mass-produced flavors, but living traditions passed down through generations. In Germany, food is never just about taste. It is history you can eat, culture you can smell, and tradition you can experience with every bite. So, if you were living in Germany, what would you try first? A freshly baked loaf of regional bread, a cold glass of traditional beer, or a sausage that locals swear is the best in the world? Germany, a country full of paradoxes. Germans are famous for punctuality, yet their trains are surprisingly often late. This contradiction becomes clear the moment you start traveling through the country. Germany has one of the densest railway networks in all of Europe, with tracks reaching nearly every city and small town. In theory, you can cross the country almost entirely by train. It is efficient, extensive, and deeply integrated into daily life. And yet delays are so common that they have become a national joke. There is even an unofficial definition of being on time. If a train arrives less than 6 minutes late, many people still consider it punctual. Anything beyond that starts to raise eyebrows, but not much outrage. For a society known worldwide for precision, this quiet acceptance feels unexpected. The same sense of practical contradiction can be found in German history. Take Fanta, a drink many people associate with American culture. It was actually created in Germany during the Second World War, when the country was cut off from key ingredients needed to produce Coca-Cola. Faced with shortages, factory managers improvised using whatever was available, and a new drink was born out of necessity rather than luxury. These examples reveal something important. German order is not about perfection, it is about function. Systems are built to work most of the time, not to look flawless. When something fails, people adapt rather than panic. Efficiency here is flexible in ways that outsiders often do not expect. So, is this a contradiction, or is it simply a very German form of realism? A culture that values structure, yet quietly accepts that real life never runs perfectly on schedule. Unbelievable competitions and festivals in Germany. Germany is known for discipline and structure, but it is also a country that knows how to laugh at itself. One of the most surprising traditions comes from Bavaria, where finger wrestling is taken very seriously. Two competitors sit across from each other, hook a finger into a small leather strap, and pull with all their strength. The goal is simple: drag your opponent toward you. Matches often last only seconds, yet injuries are common and pride is on the line. It looks absurd to outsiders, but for locals it is a respected test of strength and endurance. Then there are competitions that celebrate features most people would try to hide. In certain regions, men proudly compete in contests for the biggest nose, while others prepare for elaborate beard championships. These are not jokes or side attractions. Participants train, style, and present themselves with full confidence, turning what might be considered flaws elsewhere into badges of honor and creativity. And just when you think it cannot get stranger, Germany hosts pumpkin boat races. Giant pumpkins weighing hundreds of kilograms are hollowed out, placed on lakes, and used as boats. Competitors climb inside and paddle furiously, while crowds cheer from the shore. It is chaotic, ridiculous, and incredibly entertaining. These events reveal a side of Germany many travelers never expect. Beneath the rules, schedules, and seriousness lies a culture that embraces humor, originality, and self-irony. It is a reminder that discipline does not cancel joy, and order does not mean the absence of play. In many ways, these competitions are the perfect metaphor for Germany itself, a highly organized society that still knows how to laugh, celebrate the unusual, and enjoy life in the most unexpected ways. Everyday customs and life rituals in Germany. In Germany, even celebrating a birthday comes with strict rules. One of the strongest taboos is celebrating a birthday early. While celebrating late is perfectly fine, celebrating even one day before the actual date is believed to bring bad luck. For Germans, this is not superstition taken lightly. It is a deeply rooted cultural belief that you should never invite misfortune ahead of time, no matter how excited you are. As birthdays become milestones, the traditions become even more surprising. Turning 30 while still single can trigger a public ritual in some regions. Friends may dress the birthday person in embarrassing outfits and assign them chores like cleaning public spaces or door handles. The only way to escape is to receive a kiss from someone. What may feel humiliating at first is actually meant as playful pressure mixed with social bonding and shared laughter. Weddings come with their own unique rituals. Before the official ceremony, many couples hold an event called Polterabend. Friends, family, and neighbors gather outside the couple's home and intentionally smash porcelain plates and dishes on the ground. Glass is avoided, but the noise is loud and impossible to ignore. The broken pieces are believed to scare away bad luck. Afterward, the bride and groom must clean everything together. This is not symbolic decoration. It is a real test of teamwork, patience, and cooperation, a small preview of married life itself. Facing chaos together is seen as more meaningful than any romantic speech. These customs may appear serious or even strange, but they reveal something important about German culture. Life rituals are not only about the individual, they are about the community, shared responsibility, and learning to face both joy and inconvenience together. It is serious, yes, but it is also deeply human. Why German billionaires live in silence? Do you actually know what German billionaires look like? Around the world, the faces of the ultra-rich are everywhere. They appear on magazine covers, social media, and television, often speaking openly about their wealth and lifestyle. In Germany, it is very different. Despite having more than 100 billionaires, most of them remain almost completely invisible to the public. One major reason is security. Germany has a painful history of high-profile kidnappings connected to wealthy families. These events left a deep scar on the national mindset. Since then, discretion has become a form of protection. Staying out of the spotlight is not about mystery or arrogance, but about keeping families safe. There is also a powerful historical weight behind this silence. Many of Germany's richest families trace their fortunes back several generations, including periods linked to the Second World War. In a country that is extremely sensitive to its past, displaying wealth can easily trigger public criticism or moral backlash. For many, being quiet feels more responsible than being celebrated. As a result, German billionaires often live surprisingly normal lives. They avoid interviews, skip celebrity events, and rarely speak publicly. Their companies may be global giants, but their personal identities stay carefully guarded. Wealth here is seen as something to manage, not something to display. In a culture that values privacy and social balance, staying hidden is not weakness. It is a choice, a deliberate decision to live without constant attention, even when you could afford anything you want. So let me ask you this. If you were incredibly rich, would you choose fame and visibility? Or would you prefer a quiet life far away from the spotlight? Berlin, a capital that feels unexpectedly free. Berlin does not feel like most capital cities. In terms of size, Berlin is almost 9 times larger than Paris, yet it feels far less crowded. Wide streets, open spaces, and long stretches of calm make the city feel breathable, even in busy areas. You can walk through large parks, or sit by the water, and feel as if the city has momentarily disappeared around you. What truly sets Berlin apart is how green it is. Around 44% of the city is made up of parks, forests, lakes, rivers, and canals. In summer, tree-lined streets offer shade everywhere, and water becomes part of daily life. People swim, relax by lakes, and gather outdoors as if nature were woven directly into the urban design. Berlin is also a city of culture on an extraordinary scale. It is home to around 200 museums covering everything from ancient history and classical art to modern design, music, and everyday life. No matter what you are curious about, there is almost always a museum that speaks directly to it. This richness has earned Berlin 3 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, each reflecting a different layer of the city's complex past. What makes Berlin special is not just its size or its greenery, but its atmosphere. It feels open, experimental, and unfinished in the best possible way. A city that allows space for history, creativity, and personal freedom to exist side by side. So, if you imagine a capital as dense, rigid, and overwhelming, Berlin quietly challenges that idea and invites you to slow down and explore it on your own terms. Unsolved mysteries that still haunt Germany. Germany is known for logic, science, and precision, yet some of its strangest stories still have no clear explanation. High in the Harz Mountains, on the peak of Brocken, visitors sometimes witness something deeply unsettling. A giant human-shaped shadow suddenly appears in the mist, surrounded by glowing rings of light, moving exactly as they move. Raise an arm, and the shadow raises its arm. Take a step, and it follows. For centuries, people believed they were seeing ghosts, demons, or witches watching from the fog. Today, science calls this the Brocken specter, explaining it as sunlight passing through mist. Yet the mystery remains. Not everyone sees it. People standing side by side may experience completely different visions. Even under the same conditions, the phenomenon appears and disappears without warning. Then there is a far quieter mystery, hidden inside one of Germany's most important churches. On the stone floor of a grand cathedral, there is a single dark footprint shaped like a human shoe. When you stand exactly on this mark, something strange happens. Despite being surrounded by tall, stained glass windows, the interior suddenly appears dark, as if the windows vanish from view. Step just a little to the side, and the light instantly returns. This effect has remained unchanged for centuries. Legend says the footprint belongs to the devil himself, who helped build the church under the condition that no light would enter it. Believing he had succeeded, he left his mark behind. Modern architects have tried to explain the illusion through angles, columns, and sightlines, yet no theory fully explains why it works so perfectly for almost everyone, regardless of height or position. In a country famous for having answers to almost everything, these places serve as quiet reminders that some questions still resist logic. Even in the most carefully designed landscapes and buildings, mystery has a way of surviving. So if you stood there yourself, would you trust the science? Or would you feel that some things are simply not meant to be explained? Christmas markets and the spirit of German winter. When winter arrives in Germany, the country begins to change in a way that feels almost magical. In some regions, the season starts with energy and chaos. The Cologne Carnival transforms the city into a sea of costumes, music, and laughter. Streets fill with people dressed as anything imaginable, singing, celebrating, and temporarily forgetting everyday rules. It is loud, playful, and full of satire, a moment when seriousness gives way to collective joy. But as winter deepens, Germany slows down. This is when the Christmas markets appear. From late November until just before Christmas, towns and cities across the country glow with warm lights and wooden stalls. These markets are not just places to shop. They are part of daily life. After work, friends and families gather to drink hot spiced wine, eat grilled sausages, and stand together in the cold, talking and laughing without rushing anywhere. The atmosphere is calm but alive. The smell of roasted nuts and gingerbread fills the air. Soft music plays in the background. Snow, when it falls, seems to belong exactly where it is. Time feels slower, and the cold becomes something shared rather than avoided. For Germans, Christmas markets are not tourist attractions. They are a seasonal rhythm, a way to mark the year, and a reminder that winter is not something to endure alone. It is a time to gather, to pause, and to feel connected, even in the darkest months. This is the quiet side of Germany, less shocking, less loud, but deeply revealing. A country that knows how to balance order with warmth and discipline with moments of simple human closeness. Germany is a place where rules are strict, yet people live with an unexpected sense of freedom. It is a country that can feel rigid on the surface, but once you look closer, you see a society that values honesty, personal space, and the freedom to live life without pretending. Discipline exists, not to control people, but to make daily life function smoothly. And within that structure, people find room to be themselves in ways that often surprise outsiders. So if you had the chance to live in Germany, would you feel excited by the clarity and order? Or would you feel nervous about the rules and expectations? Let us know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey through Germany, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you do not miss what comes next. And in the next video, we will explore a question many travelers wonder about. What is life in Germany really like during winter? And is it as cold and distant as people imagine? Or is there something warmer hiding beneath the surface?